Jared here with CarBuzz.com, and today, after more than 20 years off the market, I get to be one of the first people to drive the all-new 2020 Toyota Gazoo Racing Supra. So Gazoo Racing, that's pretty important. If you live in America, you probably aren't as familiar with the Gazoo Racing brand. They're sort of Toyota's arm that builds race cars and really sporty vehicles over in Europe. Sort of like TRD, but Toyota just felt that they did so much development work on this car that they deserve to have their name in the title of it. So you may also know that this Toyota Supra is a little unlike the Mark IV that preceded it way back in 1998. That's when that car went out of production. That's because this one was co-developed by BMW. That means it uses a BMW inline-six engine because Toyota felt it was important for the Supra to retain that inline-six. And Toyota, they just didn't make an inline-six at the time. So what did they do? They borrowed from one of the best inline-six makers in the world, that being BMW. So this is the B58 motor out of the Z4 and some other products. It also uses a BMW ZF 8-speed automatic. We're going to talk a little bit more about that on the road. But while we have it here, let's go ahead and talk about the styling, because even though this car shares a lot of components with the BMW Z4, I don't think they look at all similar. Of course, one's a coupe, one's a convertible, but let's go ahead and take a look at the outside exterior styling, because I think this is one handsome looking car in person. So while I have the car here, I need to talk to you about the styling here, because this is an area that seems to be very controversial on the internets, where people always like to voice their opinions. I think the Supra is gorgeous. You may differ. I promise you, you have to go see it in person because it will definitely change your opinion of this car. It looks very different in person than it does in pictures. People are a little mad that it doesn't look like the FT1 concept from a couple years ago. I think those people must be blind, because this really does have the concept looks to me. You've got this pointy motorsports inspired front end. It kind of looks like an F1 car, very similar to how the FT1 concept was. You have your center radiator to cool the engine. They actually had like a bigger radiator, and they deemed that it was actually cooling the engine too much. So a lot of what this car has on it that you see here is designed with the intention to make it more motorsports ready if that's what you want. Things like these vents, you can take these out and you can, on the aftermarket, replace them with real vents that are going to help you with downforce and cooling and all of those things. Toyota knows that people are going to want to tune this, people are going to want to track this, and it definitely looks the part. I think this red is a great color to get. You can see we have the double bubble roof, which carries over from the concept. That actually pays dividends when you're sitting on the inside of the car with a helmet. If it didn't have that, it might start to feel a little bit tight on the inside. Now let's go ahead and check out the back real quick before we go. I think that these headlights, they say they're reminiscent of the Mark IV Supra. I totally see it. If you cut off this, I think it looks like pure Mark IV Supra, and anybody who's on the comment section that deems otherwise, I guess we just disagree on that fact. All right, so now that we have it pointing in the rear direction, you might see Mr. Doug DeMuro in the back filming his video on the Toyota Supra. Let's talk about this rear end styling, which I think is very different from the Z4. I think this is the biggest differentiator between the two cars. The front end styling to me looks very different, but I think the rear end is where the Supra really comes alive. I think it's very more dynamic looking than the Z4. You've got this cool little lip spoiler, it just kind of comes up here. If that is too subtle for you, Toyota has said they've already put mounting points in here so that you can put on a large rear wing if that's what you're into. This rear haunch is really important. It's gorgeous. It has this really nice shape to it, and they have a beautiful Mark IV Supra just off camera. It's owned by Mr. Toyota himself, only has a couple thousand miles on it. It is gorgeous, and I looked at the two cars next to each other, and you can really see that this quarter panel here does bear remnants to the MK4 Supra. So for those of you that say this car has no heritage to the Supra, I don't see it. I think this car looks very much like the Mark IV Supra, although it's smaller and lighter and more nimble, which since when is that ever a bad thing? The rest of the back looks really cool. You've got this diffuser down here, these really nice exhaust tips that sound incredible when you are on throttle in this car. I'll try and get a sound clip for you later, but let's go ahead and do the only good thing and take this out on the racetrack where I can tell you how it drives. All right, so here I am on Summit Motorsports Park in the 2020 Supra. So I have it now in its sportiest drive modes because we are, of course, on a racetrack. You want to drive it in its sportiest drive modes. Full manual controls. This 8-speed automatic, I know a lot of people are upset that the Supra does not have a manual. I'm one of them. You know, I would have liked this car with a manual. I think 335 horsepower from the turbocharged B58 inline-six and 365 foot-pounds of torque. Great numbers, perfect amount for a manual transmission car. I think any more and I'd be happier with this automatic. But, you know, let's get over that real quick because this Z8 8-speed unit is one of the best in the business. And around this track, I am not a professional race car driver, and having this car in manual mode to me is just much easier, much more friendly to get behind. And let's be honest with ourselves, a manual is probably not the only thing keeping you from buying this car. It's going to be more of a monetary thing for most of us. I know I'd probably go out and pull the trigger on one of these if I had 50 grand more in my bank account. Steering works great out here on the racetrack. I think it's a little looser than I remember it being in the BMW Z4, which I've also driven. But then again, I didn't drive the M40i Z4. So that is a very interesting distinction that I have to keep in mind when comparing these two cars. So here on the racetrack, the car is really tight, not a lot of body roll, gets you through the corners. That 50-50 weight distribution feels great. It's really quick in a straight line. You always feel like you have power on command, even if you're in the wrong gear. 0 to 60 is going to be 4.1 seconds if you care. It does have launch control, but here on the racetrack, you're not really doing 0 to 60s very often. So I know a lot of people care that the BMW Z4, I think, is a little bit quicker actually. They had it rated at like 4.4 and then they had to change it. So it's actually like in the high threes now, I think. That might be because the Z4 has 382 horsepower, whereas this is only 335. Trust me, on the racetrack, like, I'm not like begging for more power. I'm not like, oh my God, where's the power? I'm not thinking that at all when I'm driving this car. It feels like more than enough. And I've talked to Toyota about this. Why did the BMW get more power than the Supra? And they just said to me, you know, we tested it with both levels of power and it didn't really come out to be any faster. And that's just all there is to it. They tracked it with both levels of power, and having 382 just didn't help all that much. So there's your answer. If you really care, you're one of those people that are just all about horsepower, then by all means, go ahead and tune it. This B58 engine loves the aftermarket, absolutely loves it. So if that's your prerogative, go ahead and do that. So yeah, on the racetrack, this car is pretty infallible. I really like it. I think you're going to enjoy it on the racetrack as well. 8-speed automatic, you know, about as good as you can get. So if you really want to complain about that, sorry, you're just going to have to go and look for a different car that comes with a manual. I think most people are going to be more comfortable with this car out on the street though. So let's go ahead and pull over so that we can talk about this car's interior and what it's like to drive sitting in here in this really nice BMW inspired cabin. All right, so now that I'm pulled over, I can show you the interior cabin of the Supra, which a lot of it is inspired by BMW, yes, which may make some of you angry that it's not more Toyota parts in here, but I promise you that it does feel distinctly different in certain parts. For example, all of this layout down here, although it is BMW parts, is not laid out identically to how a Z4 is. So you're not going to step in the two cars and just think, oh, well, this is a carbon copy. It's not like how the FRS and BRZ were when those first came out. For instance, you have this gauge cluster here, which is distinctly Toyota. Just the graphics, everything about it just looks Toyota. There's nothing BMW-esque there about that. Even the head-up display looks a little bit different than how I remember it being on BMW. The steering wheel, on the other hand, that is pure BMW right here, and not even the best that BMW has. This is sort of like a base BMW steering wheel that you'd find on like a 3 Series or something. I really wish Toyota would have maybe gotten like an M steering wheel. I don't know why they didn't. I don't know whether or not it would be possible to take this off and buy an M steering wheel on the aftermarket. Of course, it would say BMW. There'd be no way to get a Toyota badge on the airbag. But, you know, I don't know, maybe you could do it. That would be something to look at if it bothers you. To be honest, it's not a horrible steering wheel by any stretch of the imagination. The paddles are a bit small and plasticky for my taste, but they are on BMW as well. Let's move over here and talk about this. This is a lot nicer. You've got real carbon fiber throughout. That's going to be the only trim you can choose from on the Supra. You've got this big haunch here. I actually don't care much for this because I kind of am hitting my right leg on it. You've got a shifter that is similar but not identical to how you would get in a BMW. You just push for park. You push this button to unlock it. That's going to throw you into reverse. You have your backup cameras and sensors and all that. You go into drive, and you can tap it over here into manual. It's a ZF 8-speed automatic transmission that works really well. You've got Toyota Command is what they're calling it. That's Japanese for iDrive, I guess, because it is basically a carbon copy clone of BMW. It is BMW's system. So all of the maps, everything is going to be very familiar if you've driven any BMW cars recently. It works pretty well. It's also a touch screen, so I do kind of like that. You're going to get Apple CarPlay, including wireless CarPlay, 4 years for free, because of course this is a BMW system, not Toyota's system, which is just starting to add Apple CarPlay and Android Auto on its own. You also have a wireless charging pad down here with this little removable area here. You don't have to have that on. You have all your safety stuff here. You can disable stop start, which I found myself doing very frequently, and it will remember the next time you get in the car, which is great. You've got your sport mode here, which, trust me, you're going to want to play around with that. That's going to tighten up the differentials and all that and really make it sound good out the back. You get a really good exhaust note when you're in sport mode. Your parking sensors, traction control, and your safety systems, which are optional on this car, you can get as part of a package. The blind spot monitoring, adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist. It's pretty cheap. I'd recommend doing it because adaptive cruise control is nice to have every day. In terms of storage, you do have some in the door pockets. You've got 2 cup holders here and then a little bit of storage right behind those. From here on over, I think this looks distinctly Toyota. It doesn't really feel too much like a BMW inside, so I think they did the best with what they could here. It wasn't ever going to look distinctly like a Toyota, but given that only most of the parts of BMW, I think it does have a distinct look on the inside. Now let's go ahead and check out the trunk area. So although it may not be the real reason you buy this car, I'm going to show you trunk space. It's pretty good. It's a little over 10 cubic feet of storage back here. It's kind of like a Corvette, although it's not quite as large as the Corvette. I really don't think any sports cars are ever going to approach that Corvette level of cargo capacity here, but it's not bad. It's a little bit shallow. You have this car cover here to hide what's in here. You could take it off if you wanted, but it's really not going to give you that much extra space before the lid ends anyway. And it is open through here, so you can, if you're a passenger, reach back and grab stuff that's back here in the trunk, which is interesting. I think that maybe they would have been better off designing it like as a closed off trunk. It maybe would have helped with sound insulation, but it really helps you hear the wonderful exhaust back here. So now that we've shown the inside, we've driven it and all of that good stuff, let's go over pricing. All right, so now let's go over pricing. I'm on a normal road, so I can talk to you a little bit about this car without having to panic on a racetrack. There are really only 3 trims you're going to want to worry about, one of which you're not really going to worry about too much because it might be gone by the time you watch this video. So the base Supra costs $49,990. That's for the base 3.0 trim level. You get Alcantara and leather mixed seats. Pretty nice on the inside. I haven't actually seen one on this trip like that, but I'm sitting in the 3.0 Premium, which is the one I'm going to recommend to you anyway. $53,990. So it's about $4,000 more, but you're going to get leather seats. You're going to get the larger navigation system with built-in nav and Apple CarPlay and all that stuff. You're also going to get the 12-speaker JBL audio system, which I think is a pretty good value. You're also going to get larger brakes in the rear. That's pretty important if you're all about performance. So you've also got the Launch Edition. That's $55,250. So that's the one with the red mirrors. So no matter what color you get, the mirror caps are going to be red. You can't really see it as much on a red car like the one I'm driving, but if you go for white or gray or black, you really see the red mirrors, and it's a very cool look. You also get unique black wheels on those. I said not to worry about that one too much because they're only building 1,500 of them. One of them's already been sold at auction for like $2 million, so you're probably not going to get one of those. There's only two options you can select on the Supra. Driver assistance package is $1195. That's going to get you adaptive cruise, blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist, all that good stuff. Definitely recommend doing that. I think it's a good option for only like $1,500. And then you've got, if you order the base Supra, the 3.0 nav and JBL audio is $2,460. That's why I recommend just opting for the 3.0 Premium. You're getting the nicer interior leather anyway, so you might as well just go for that. All of them are going to have that 335 horsepower engine, 365 foot-pounds of torque, which is perfect on this road car. Fuel economy is pretty good. Toyota says they really didn't pay too much attention to it when they built this car, but you're going to average about 24 in the city, 31 on the highway, 26 combined. Not terrible numbers there. The car is very comfortable out on the road, very quiet as well. The steering is extremely direct, but it doesn't like yank you the wheel out of your hand on a wet day like today, which I really like. If I go ahead and put it in sport mode, the steering does weight up a little bit. I think the steering has a nice weight to it. The best part about sport mode is, you can probably hear, oh yes, it crackles, pops. It sounds fake, but it's like, it's awesome doing that. Oh my gosh, it just pops like crazy. You get on the throttle and you let go. Oh, it just goes like gunfire. Oh, I love that. It sounds fantastic. So anybody complaining that this is a BMW engine clearly has not driven this BMW engine because it's just so good. Ah, can't get enough of that. That is excellent. I really like how this car drives on the road, on the track. I maybe wish it had slightly better brakes, and it could even be a little stiffer, but it has such great balance. This is more of a road car than a track car anyway, so in that respect, I think Toyota has just done a great job engineering this car. Bravo. I really enjoy it. So if you have a problem with this, I know it doesn't come with a manual. Boo-hoo, get over it. You probably weren't going to buy this car anyway, because it probably was too expensive anyway. Like, I know for me, I love having a manual as much as the next guy, but if I had 50 grand, I'd really have to consider this car. I think it would be actually really good if this had the 4-cylinder. We've heard rumors that they're going to do a 4-cylinder Supra. They are in other markets, but a 4-cylinder Supra with the manual would be really entertaining. Not that this one isn't. I think 335 horsepower is just the right amount that you can enjoy it out on the road without getting yourself in too much trouble. So now that I've gone over all that fun stuff with the practicality and price and all that, let's go ahead and pull over one last time so I can deliver my final verdict on the 2020 Toyota Supra. So it's time to sum up my time with the Toyota Supra. This is a car that I enjoyed a heck of a lot. I'm one of the few people here that's actually driven this and the Z4, although the Z4 I drove was that 4-cylinder model. And after driving them both separated, I didn't get to drive them back to back or anything like that. I think that Toyota's sports car is as good, if not a little bit better, than the BMW Z4 that I drove. I think this is a really great combination of stiff for the track, but also livable every day. It's got a nice trunk. It's got a nice interior for a Toyota. So I think this is going to be something that you are going to be happy to commute in every day on your day to work. And I think that just look at it, like people are going to be pulling you over on the street when you get one of these. So yeah, it's a very interesting car and a better value proposition, as we mentioned, than the Z4 is. I'm not going to go ahead and give it one of my scores. I'm borderlining between great buy and must buy. I'm somewhere in between there. I'm undecided because I haven't spent just enough time with the car yet. I'm going to try and get one of these for a week, and I will report back whether this is a great buy or a must buy, but that's definitely where I'm leaning. And if you've enjoyed this video, we have others like it, so check out the CarBuzz YouTube channel. Please subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed this video. And if you'd like to see more content from us, be sure to check out the CarBuzz website, carbuzz.com, or our apps on iOS and Android. That's where you can get all of the latest and greatest in automotive news, and to see my full written write-up of all of the cars, just like this Toyota Supra. Hope you've enjoyed the video. See you next time.